In this video, we'll review how to create reusable components to create multi-dimensional models. In the last video, we built a simple calculation for product revenue. Let's now assume that there are actually multiple product lines and even SKUs with different sales price and unit cost assumptions that all need to flow into product revenue and COGS. Let's dive back into the canvas. I could build another group like this from scratch, but the power of components is that they can be reused in a very dynamic way. I'm actually going to take this single component that we built and use it as what we call a leader, or an original version of the logic that I'll then be able to create clones. To do this, I first need to delete any links external here, like this one. And as a best practice, I like to move the leaders to a central group for quick access. In this case, I'll make a new group right next to my income statement schedules. I'm now going to move my product revenue group inside of my leaders. It's clear that this is my original logic. I'm also going to rename the group to something that represents this component more generically, such as product. We'll be adding some additional calculations shortly that include COGS. This makes it a more generic object that includes information about products, revenue, units, etc. The next step is to create the first clone. I'm going to right-click on the leader and insert clone. If I expand this group, this looks a lot like I just copied and pasted, but what's really powerful is if I need to make any changes to the core logic itself, I can do it in the leader and update all of the followers at once. Let's move this product back to our revenue schedule, and let's switch to that view. I can see it's already in the table. Let's first assume that we have two different product lines, product A and product B. An even faster way to add another product is just to right-click anywhere in the table and insert product. The name displayed is actually dynamic based on the group name I set in the leader component. This allows for easy customization of various types of components, such as employees and expenses. Now that I've added a second product, you can see that in the next two rows in the table. Let's talk about one of the main benefits of using component clones. I can easily update the logic in the leader and update all of the followers in one click. Let's say I now want to include a COGS calculation that would let me input a cost per unit into each product line. I'm going to come over to the leader, add another node, and rename it to cost per unit. This is also going to be a constant, just like our sales price. And I'll change it to dollar with 0 decimals. I'll add in another variable that I'll call product COGS. And another multiplication. I'll connect with links just like I did with the revenue calculation. I can actually use the same input of number of units from the revenue calculation. This allows for reusability of the same single input, which is a great modeling best practice to eliminate having to maintain two different inputs that represent the same value. And now I've got a single input driving both sets of logic. Now I just need to right-click and update followers. And Logica adds all the same logic to all of the followers. Now let's inspect the table. I've added a cost per unit, and I still have the sales price per unit. Let's change the freeze columns and start adding in some inputs. If I need to change formatting on any of the nodes, I can go to the leader, change the formatting, and update followers. Now I want a way to identify each of these product lines, and this will be especially important if there's more than two. I'm now going to add a new dimension to this component, but instead of it being a number, it's going to be a text attribute called product name. Setting this up is very similar to how we set up all the other nodes in this component. So we'll add, we'll rename it to product name, and change it to a constant text. Then update followers. Now we can type in the product name. Product A, and product B. If I want to switch the order of these columns, there's a really easy way to do it. I'll click on the Reorder Table Columns button and drag the product name to the location I want. I'll move it to the first spot. I can also make the column widths wider by dragging, changing freeze columns, then if I want to save these settings, I can just click the cloud button. Now, adding a third product's even easier. I can right-click, insert new product, then type in the next product name, as well as the assumptions. Now we're going to connect this product revenue to the income statement. To do this, we're going to link in a new way. We're going to create a dynamic link. This means that instead of a direct static link that's from one node to another, we're actually going to connect groups, which makes a connection in a dynamic way that creates direct links automatically so that, say, as more products get added, I don't have to keep coming back and connecting those products into my income statement. I'll create a dynamic link from this revenue group, the group itself, to the income statement group, and then I can click the processing link. This establishes a dynamic link between these two groups. Logic has already created several links for me. If I expand them all out and zoom out a little bit, we can see that there are 3 different links that are adding up the 3 different product revenues into our total in the income statement. This is very powerful because now the income statement calculation is updated automatically as other products get added or any inputs change. The other powerful aspect of using components with custom dimensions is that it enables dynamic interactive reports with options to sort and group by different dimensions. For example, I can apply different grouping options. Let's say rather than having all of the rows arranged just by product, I want to have all of the number of units grouped together, and similarly for COGS and revenue. I can apply a grouping from this button at the top of the table. I'm going to click the plus button to add a new sorting and grouping level, and I'm going to sort by name. That will sort and group all of the rows based on this column called name. I can apply a grouping, which will add a summary row. I want to add up all of the elements, so I'll use sum. When I click apply and save, I can see the same information just rearranged in a way that has all of the number of units first with a summary row. I can still add a new product while maintaining all of this grouping. If I right-click and insert a new product, it'll create all the placeholder rows. And I can update the assumptions. Now let's say I want to add another product-related dimension, such as SKU. I'll show the canvas, come to my leader, insert a node, update the name, change it to be a constant text, then update followers. I can see the new dimension is showing in the table, and I can move the column so it's by product name. Now, let's say rather than having all of these be 5 separate products, let's say there's only 3 main product categories and specific SKUs. So I'm going to change some of these values. I've updated a lot of the values so that I have a bigger data set to work with. I can now apply multiple layers to the groupings. Let's come up to the sorting and grouping button. I'm now going to apply a second level of sorting and grouping, this time by product name. This creates nested summary rows that can also be formatted. If I want to quickly collapse an entire level, I can click on the button, and I can even save it in the collapsed state for making cleaner reports. The sky's really the limit with how components can be used to make the model more dynamic and very granular in localized ways, meaning you can add in the specific dimensions needed for revenue, which is likely different than dimensions needed for expenses or headcount, or even other types of analysis. To help you get started, as well as share our best practices, we've created an entire library of component templates that can be added into a model, so you don't always have to start from scratch. For example, there's a component template very similar to the one we just built. To insert that, instead of building from scratch, I can right-click on the destination group, insert component, search for revenue, and I'll select the revenue per unit with COGS. Our library templates come with pre-built views and optional example data, and the entire component is ready for further customization once added to the model. If there's a template you'd like to see added to the library, send us a message in the chat. We'd love to talk more about it. You can also browse our entire template library from our Help Center by clicking on the question mark, clicking on Help Center, and in the tab that opens, navigate to the Logica template library and select component templates to browse specific templates that can be inserted into existing models, even searching by different categories. We hope this helps you get started even faster with Logica.